Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Go Well with Sharon, and today we are visiting Luke Rudman at his studio. Luke, thank you so much for chatting to us. It is absolutely amazing to finally be here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to have this opportunity. Thank you.
Awesome. Trust me, I think we're more excited. Now, tell me, Luke, have you always been into art?
Well, I grew up in a very artistic home. My father, before he passed, was an art teacher at Lawson Brown. He was also quite a well-known sculptor and painter in PE. My mother as well, she ran an art school in the loft of my house for about 3 years when I was a child, but I hadn't really embraced art until about the end of grade 9. But when I found art, it just exploded for me. It was like I saw all of the new colors that I was able to play with, and it just exploded for me, and I've been creating art like viciously ever since then.
That's absolutely amazing. And tell me, your art form, okay, is pretty unique. I haven't quite seen anything like that. Can you just tell us and the viewers out there more or less how you got into this type of art form?
Well, it's quite a funny story how I got into my body art. Last year I was making a sculpture. It was a lifestyle sculpture with a dress that had Klimt patterns on, Klimt's gold cap patterns. And I had bought a whole lot of makeup to draw on the canvas with. And one evening I just thought, well, I have all of this makeup, why don't I use it for what it's intended for? And I did a body art piece where I was covered in Klimt's gold patterns, and after that it just kind of clicked for me. And I've been creating these body art pieces, and I then learned how to make head pieces, and I learned how to pair the written pieces with my art. And now it's about a year later, and I've created almost 130 pieces.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sure, that's a lot. 130 guys in 1 year, that's a lot. Now, when you create these body art pieces and these amazing head pieces, where do you get your inspiration from? Like, you would see something and it would spark something. Can you just let us in that creative process?
Yeah, sure. So obviously my artistic inspirations come from like the very well-known people. I love Picasso's work. Obviously Gustav Klimt inspired my first piece, and I've done a lot of pieces inspired by him. Salvador Dali and types of surrealist paintings, and anything very expressive and bold and colorful and out of the norm is very inspirational to me. But funnily enough, most of my inspiration comes from random everyday things. I find inspiration. I've done headpieces inspired by trash. I've done headpieces inspired by broken technology. I do a lot of pieces inspired by pieces of nature that I see that I turn into art. And one of my favorite things about what I do is the transformation process. I love taking something that people would normally not see value in, that people generally think is trash, and I love taking those things and making them the main jewel in my art pieces. So my inspiration comes from everyday life. Yeah.
That's absolutely fascinating. Now, I know I've seen some of your amazing pieces, but can you just maybe highlight one or two that were particularly close to your heart, and why?
Well, almost all of the pieces that I do inspired by Picasso. He does cubism, his style. I love his cubist portraits, and I do quite a few body art pieces inspired by cubism. And cubism for me is a very inspirational movement because in its time it was quite controversial. People questioned whether it was real art or not, and I feel like for me it's in a similar position, or what I do is in a similar position, because it's very avant-garde for the art scene at the moment. Like, people very often question whether this falls into fine art or if it's just like costumes. So for me, Picasso's cubist portraits, I do those, but the body art version they're one of my favorite pieces to do. And then also I worked with an amazing photographer. Her name is Engela Marie. And I did 2 shoots with her. One was my Zeus reincarnated look. It's a piece where I have technology on my head and I have technology on my body. And another piece where I had a red flower headpiece. Those 2 pieces for me were very special just because she was one of the most talented people I've worked with, and the pieces came out beautifully, and they really motivate me to keep going because I want to create more things like that.
That's absolutely fascinating. Now, when you have an idea, when something pops up in your head, how do you take that from an idea into an art piece? How do you put the whole thing together?
Well, everything for me starts with a headpiece. And what I do generally with the headpieces is I go for a walk, and I just have a pair of scissors and a box or a bucket, and I look at things and I see things that inspire me, whether it be like trash or nature or broken pieces of things lying around. I see those things and I draw inspiration from them, and through what I find, I decide what the headpiece will look like. And the creating the headpiece usually takes 2 to 3 hours. It can take longer, but generally that's the norm. And obviously the headpiece is just inspired by things that I find in everyday life. And then the makeup part or the body art part is always inspired by the headpiece. I let the headpiece tell me what to do and tell me the visual aspect of what I'm creating on my face and body. So that's the visual aspect of what I do. But I also, of course, have with a lot of my pieces, I have written parts that convey the message of the piece. And the funny thing about that for me is the message of most of my pieces don't come to me until the piece is done, which is quite interesting, because I think with most artists, they decide on a message they want to send and they create a piece accordingly. But for me, it's like, I know what I want to say in my subconscious mind, but it doesn't reveal itself to me until the piece is done. And it's quite amazing, actually, sometimes when the message comes to me and everything fits together so well. That for me is one of the most interesting parts of what I do, just allowing the process to be influenced by my subconscious mind and my creativity. But the process in total, it can take between 4 to 6 hours.
Now, you also currently matriculating from Grey High School,
Yes.
right? You did a piece a while back that got quite a bit of media attention called I Don't Play Rugby.
Yes.
Can you just give us a little bit of insight into how this piece came about and what is the message that you're trying to give through this piece? Because it is a very beautiful piece.
Thank you. It's actually this piece sitting behind me now. I had always knew I wanted to do something like this. I think because in a system like that, there's a very strong voice from the system kind of pushing you and telling you what type of person to be. I feel like in a lot of high schools, there's not much space for individuality and creativity. But this piece, and obviously the message of this piece was especially important to me because recently, as I have been growing in the art world and as I have been exploring the arts and to some degree succeeding in art, obviously I still have so much I want to do and need to do, but I felt like the value system in that school was disproportionate. I felt like the people who were succeeding in the arts were not getting the same recognition as people who were succeeding in sport, rugby especially. So what I wanted to do was obviously just poke fun at the system and have a piece with me in school uniform but wearing body art titled I Don't Play Rugby, kind of poking fun at the system, saying I don't play rugby but yet I still persevere and yet I still succeed. And it's really just a message telling people that they don't have to conform to the stereotype to be successful in the system. That's, all it really was at its core. It wasn't meant to be very controversial. But I suppose in such a system where the values are so set in place, even something a little bit disruptive is quite controversial. But it, to date, has been my favorite thing that I've ever done. Even just the support I've gotten from people in the school that have come up to me and thanked me. Obviously, I didn't come up with this message. I think I'm just amplifying it by creating this piece. But it for me has been the most special thing to see that you can create something and to a small degree make a difference.
Yes.
Because that's, at this point, that's what I feel is my favorite part of what I do.